What is up, everyone? JD Geeks here. Today, I have a brand new package from Out of Darts. I'm gonna show you guys what's inside, but some of this stuff is actually meant for a different blaster that I will be getting in the future. I am actually going to end up waiting to show you guys everything that I got for that blaster, and I want to talk about a different thing that I got in this package specifically. So let's open it up. I'm very excited for this blaster. I did say in some of my other videos that I didn't think I would get this because I wasn't quite sure about the blaster itself. But it was on sale when I purchased this blaster, so it was worth it for me to get, in my opinion. I have actually since used one of these blasters, and it was really fun. I do plan on actually switching this to be my main blaster in a sense. It'll always be in my loadout, but let's talk about it a little bit. So today we are talking about the Lightning. The Lightning has been a pretty new blaster that was released, which is in competition with the Diana. This blaster looks very cool, and it is a little bit smaller in form factor than the Diana. It is moddable. You can update this. You can delete updates. You can change it from one shot to two shot and one shot to full auto, things like that. This blaster is extremely quiet, and the battery that it has is a much easier battery compartment than something like the Diana. The Diana's battery compartment, you kind of have to jam the wires in and things like that, and it does make it kind of inconvenient to use. However, this battery just slides right in the front, and I thought that feature was amazing, and I did want to show that off. So let's get right into opening up the Lightning. I will see you at the table. All right, so here we are at the table. I'm trying a different setup again than I did from a few weeks ago. This one seems to work a little bit better, but we'll only be able to tell with time. So here are all of the things that I got for the Lightning, and let's get right into it. We'll actually start off on, actually no, we will start off with the main blaster actually. So from what I've seen, this box is very nice on the inside, and I do plan on keeping it in good condition if possible. But if you can see here, I did get the all clear version. So let's get right into the blaster. So if you can kind of see that, it does give a small display of the actual Lightning itself, the charger, the battery, some darts, and then the actual blaster. And then if you remove this, you have a small thing of like foam to protect it, and then the blaster itself. You got your small little instruction manual right here. Shows you all of the features and gimmicks. I will be looking at this later, most likely. And then it has some worker darts in here, some Gen 3s. Does not look like they're the more updated version of the worker darts, but I mean, hey, you get some extra worker darts. That's just fine by me. Let's put those back. Next up, we got here, we have the charger for the new battery. Pretty cool. You can see the inside of this. I like that quite a bit, actually. And yeah, it's just a USB-C port. So pretty nice. Put that back as well. And then the new battery. This is honestly probably the main reason why I would recommend the Lightning. Well, one of the two. The other one is the fact that it is much quieter than the Diana, even when the flywheels are revving, which I think is very, very cool. But all you actually need to do in order to charge this is you just take it and slide the battery right in, just like that. And then obviously you just have to plug in the stand itself, which is a very, very nice feature to have. And I really do like that. And then the main thing most of you guys are probably watching this video for, the lightning itself. I am very excited for this blaster. I know I've said that I think I would have preferred the Diana, but after actually using one of these in person, they are so similar that it's actually kind of crazy. I think both are very good in their own aspects, and I know the Diana is on a pretty crazy sale right now. It used to be like $200+, and I know at least out of darts when I am posting this video had theirs down to around 170, I think it was, which is around $30 off, which is pretty crazy. It's a pretty good deal there. But you have your selector switch right here. You can have either safe, semi, 2-round burst, or full auto, depending on what you do. And on this side, it also can change your selector switch. On the back here, you have that little screen that will tell you how much ammo you have. And then you have your mag release, your mag itself, which is a little bit flimsier than the Diana mag, but it's also a lot thinner. So I do think it has its trade-offs. I do only ever run 10-round mags, so these are going to work perfect for me. But if you do just cut some new holes into any like Nightingale mags, I do know that those will fit in the Lightning as well, which is a pretty cool feature. I know you could mod some mags to fit into the Diana, but this one fits with other mags as well, even though it is a little bit thinner. And then you have your 2-stage trigger. The first stage is just this middle part. I don't know if you can really tell from any of these angles, but there's like a small little bit of it that sticks out in the middle of that compared to the rest, and that will rev the flywheels, and then fully squeezing the trigger will make the pusher go. One thing I do wish they did was add an orange tip. This little clear bit here, I wish this was orange. If they did that, I feel like this blaster could be almost perfect. Clearly the entire thing is clear, so it is not a real gun. They can see the electronics up in here. They can see that it has flywheels and things like that, but it is still pretty realistic shape-wise to a real gun. So having that extra orange tip would be a big bonus for me. And then the thing that I was talking about earlier, the main reason I'm actually switching to the Lightning is this battery compartment. So as you can see right in there, all you really have to do for this blaster is that. Now your battery's installed. That is absolutely insane. And then I don't want to turn it on for too long because I don't want to ruin the battery, but right under here where the trigger is, there's a little button you can push and that will turn it on. It will show you the LED or the screen, the OLED screen, that it is out. And then let's say you put another mag in, it will go to 10. If I put it onto semi, I don't know if you guys can even hear that. Let me put it right up to the mic. The flywheels are spinning very, very quietly. They are very, very quiet flywheels. There's no way anyone would even be able to hear you from a distance away. They would have to be like right next to you for them to hear it. But if you do rev it up, you can hear they pick up very, very quick. It is a very nice little blaster. So let's quickly actually compare this blaster with the Diana. I feel like that is a good thing to do because it would just be good for the size comparison and the features. So I will be right back with a Diana. All right, we are now back. And obviously the Lightning is the star of the show today, but here is the HC Diana in its box. So you almost do the same thing, open it up, remove a layer of foam, and then it exposes the blaster. Again, here is my colored 3D printed door with the battery compartment, and I spray painted this little front piece orange just to get that little extra bit of orange. And then I have the clear on the top and the blue on the base. It is the 2025 edition, so it has the metal trigger in this front piece and then the magazine itself. I will say, however, that it is definitely more sturdy with the Diana, but it is thicker, so it will not fit into the Lightning. However, the Lightning mags will fit and click and stay into the Diana. So if you're looking for more mag compatibility, I think the Diana might be a better way to go, but the Lightning also has some cool things for it. So as you heard earlier with the sound of the Lightning, let's actually do the same thing with the Diana. So let's show installing a battery. So you have the XD30 connector. Obviously, you have to connect here. Does its cute little charm, and then you have to kind of tuck in these cords, kind of like that, and then close the battery door. It isn't too hard. It is actually pretty simple once you get used to it. And there are slightly more features that you can do without needing to change anything on the Diana, in my opinion. But there are also some downsides. So let's say I want to put it on semi. It is currently on semi. There's full, right? You do have the feature of being able to choose whether the flywheels are running or not running, if you can see that through the top there. And let's see if you can hear them when they are just revving. It is drastically louder having the Diana flywheels running in that like mode where you're not actually shooting than it is with the Lightning. And on top of that, it does not have a 2-stage trigger. It only has a 1-stage. So if you put it onto the rev up mode, obviously it's going to be just a tad bit snappier, but it does have that issue of the louder noise. It would be much better, in my opinion, if it had a different battery compartment, the flywheels were a little quieter. Having the extra feature of being able to turn it on and off is a cool thing, in my opinion. And having semi and full auto is another good thing as well, right out of the box. But with this blaster, you can also choose something different. Let's say I want it full auto. I can squeeze a trigger and you can clearly tell it just kind of spams shots. If I do single shot and I hold the trigger, only one shot goes. However, you can also customize this by just removing the battery. Let's say I want 3-shot. I put it to full auto and then take this, hold the trigger down. So it is going to be a little bit hard to do on camera. I'll push it down on the table to hold the trigger down. Hold the XD30 connector, plug it in. Oh, well, let's see if that worked. So, semi, there you go, 3 shots every time. It is a very cool feature to have and be able to do that. I do really like the fact that you can fully customize how this blaster works just by how you plug in the battery. I think that is a very cool feature, but it is also kind of complicated to do, especially if you are trying to get it on film. But so now if I switch it back to semi, oh, I must have done it wrong. So let's try it again. Okay, push in the trigger, hold the XD30 connector, plug it in. Seems like it didn't work again, but yep. Okay. So it is a little finicky, but it is definitely easier than having to connect to your blaster and try to do all this fancy stuff with it. One more time. It isn't supposed to do the charm until you let go of the trigger like so. I'm going to let go in 3, 2, 1. There we go. And now if I put it onto semi, it's just the one shot again. So again, a very cool blaster. I've loved the Diana ever since I first got it. It is a very nice blaster and has been a pretty stable blaster in the hobby. A lot of people do like using this. But let's actually talk a bit more about the size comparison between the two. So as you can tell, the Lightning is just a tad bit shorter than the Diana. If I line up the rear, just like so, it's also a little bit thinner. The battery compartment, again, is much easier to get into. The height or the overall width of them are about the same. And on the rear, obviously, you have the screen on the Lightning and you have nothing on the Diana. The trigger, or not the trigger, the pistol grip itself seems to be around the same size, but it does actually feel slightly smaller for the Lightning, in my opinion, which is what other people have said as well. The magazines, let's talk about these. I already talked about compatibility, but they both take 10 rounds. They're around the same height, and the only real difference is the thickness. I don't know if you can really see that on camera at all. It is definitely a little bit thicker on the Diana, and you can kind of tell just by squeezing it. But if you're ever squeezing that hard in the game, you must be under high distress. But I think overall they're both pretty close when it comes to size comparison, and I feel like they're both very, very good in different aspects. But in general, right now I'm actually leaning a bit more towards the Lightning. I do like how there isn't the metal here on the Lightning. I think that's pretty cool, and I do like how quiet the Lightning actually is when it is revving, and then that screen it has on the back as well. But let's actually move on to the accuracy test and the FPS testing of this blaster. I'm only going to go through the highest FPS testing of the blaster because I don't want to take too long. But if you guys are interested in seeing other FPS tests with the other different modes, because you can change the FPS of this blaster, which you cannot do with the Diana. If you are interested in seeing those other FPSs, please let me know in the comment section below. But that's enough talking. Let's get to the chronograph. I will see you at the chronograph. Alrighty, we are now at the chronograph with the Lightning. I did put a rubber grip on here just because I liked how it felt. The mags are a little bit shorter, like the Nightingale mags, so it will be harder to try to use Saber Heavy Ts and the older bamboo darts from Dart Zone, but I do want to at least try to get them through this blaster a little bit, and if not, I'll have to just take them out of the magazine and skip that portion of it. I do want to say, however, that I did actually update this blaster, so you can see that is the newest version. So let's actually jump right into the blaster. And now something cool that it does is instead of counting down your ammo, it actually counts up so you can tell how many shots you've done. So first up, some worker darts. 142.8. Oh, yeah. So those longer darts definitely do not like to help feed the blaster. I'm still going to try to do it a couple more times. We'll see how it does. So one more worker dart here. 137.5. 141.5. And yeah, it definitely does not like, it is jammed every time where it is just not quite feeding the dart up to the top so the pusher can get to it. So you definitely do not want to run any saber heavy tees or any longer darts. 141.9. And this should be here the last worker dart. I'll try to shoot a couple of the saber heavy tees, but again, I'm not quite sure if I will. So here we go. All right, 140.9. Yeah, they do not like to feed at all. So I will try to shoot off one or two of these, but they don't even want to stay at the top of this magazine right now. There we go. So one saber heavy T dart, 129.6. It did actually feed that time. 132.8, and this one fed as well. So 132.9. So it was definitely a bit of a challenge. I would not recommend using longer darts in this blaster, but now we have some Bamboo darts and the Nitro Shot Plus. The Bamboo darts are actually a newer addition to my collection. I just got a whole bunch in, and I'm pretty excited to keep using them for these videos because they are 1.2 grams, so they're a little bit heavier, but they are bambooed. So they should be a bit faster out of the blaster as well. Not that it will be that much faster out of the lightning because it is a flywheeler. If anything, it will probably end up being a little bit slower. But let's see how it does. 123.1. And yeah, even the dart zone, old dart zone darts are doing the same thing. 125.3. 118.7, 117.2, and last one right here, 122.9. So overall, it actually did fairly well with the bamboo darts. And now let's move on to the older dart zone darts. 140.9. That actually was a pretty big FPS difference. I'm kind of shocked. 139.3. If anything, it's probably just because the darts are lighter. 146.3. Two more left. 139.2. And last one right here. 147.3. And now the final darts are just dart zone bamboo darts. So let's see how that does. 128.7. 139.0, 132.2. Oh, weird. 131.4, and last shot, 128.8. So overall, it's actually shooting right around 130s to 140s. So not bad. And you can actually change the FPS of this blaster. I'm not going to change the FPS because I do run around 200 FPS games. Sidearms we normally have right around 150 FPS. So this is right where I want it. But you can definitely use this blaster at a lower or a lower FPS for sure. And I'm assuming eventually they will probably move it to where you can get it to a higher FPS. But overall, I do really like the Lightning. And let's actually take it over to the target and get some accuracy tests done with it. I will see you at the target. So here we are at the target for the lightning. I have here 5 shots I'm going to be doing from 50 feet away, and then I will move to the closer 25 feet away and get some shots, or get 10 shots off there. So 5 here and 10 a little bit closer, just like I have been with all my other secondaries. So let's see here how it does. Whoa, big drift. Off to the left. Yep, there's a hit. And low. And this thing definitely has some spin to it. So let's see how it does for the 25 meter. A little low, a little high, hit, a little high again, hit, hit. Oh, 2 shots went off there. Hit, hit, hit. All right, we got 1 shot left. And kind of hit. I feel like I definitely had better results with the Diana in this sense. And the trigger is definitely a little funky on the lightning, but I think overall it is still a good blaster. I have gotten a lot of kills with this blaster already in some of the local games that I play at, so it's definitely not a bad one to pick up. So that does wrap up my accuracy tests, so I will see you in the display room. We are now in the display room with the lightning. So let's talk about some of the major benefits that this blaster has compared to the Diana. It has this really, really cool screen in the back. I personally don't use that during games, but that is definitely something that's pretty cool. It has this power button right here next to the trigger, which is a cool feature, so you don't have to unplug and replug in the battery every time you want to turn it off. The fact that the flywheels are so much quieter when they're in pre-rev is definitely another bonus. And then probably the biggest thing for me is this battery. The fact that the battery can just slide in and out just like so is so convenient. I absolutely love that. And then the last major thing is I definitely like this selector switch just a little bit more. And the fact that both types of hands can use it, lefties and righties, is definitely another major benefit to this blaster. But let's talk about the major downsides. So some of the major issues that I've had with this blaster is when I have it on semi-auto and I try to squeeze the trigger, sometimes it doesn't shoot, it just revs the flywheels up. So right there were a couple of times where I would fully squeeze the trigger, but it wouldn't actually shoot. It would just rev up the flywheels. That's actually gotten me killed a couple times in some of the Nerf events. And I've had to go and respawn, and I was kind of irritated because this blaster wasn't working the way it was supposed to. The other major thing, I'm going to try it a few times here, and if it doesn't work, I'll just show a short clip of it doing this. It actually happens quite a bit during games. If I flick this to full auto, and then I actually squeeze and hold the trigger for a second, I've actually had an issue where the pusher just continues to go even after I release my finger from the trigger. So let's see if it'll do it here. No, so it didn't do it here. So let me actually get a quick video footage and I'll put that right up for you. So that is a huge, huge downside for this blaster. Shooting just a couple of shots in full auto and then it going straight into just a continuous burst. And the only way that you can stop it is by either turning off the blaster or putting it on safe. Just seems like it could potentially break in the long run. I have talked with a couple people about this, and one other person that actually has the Lightning has the exact same issue. Uh, Out of Darts is extremely helpful with this, and I actually sent in my initial Lightning that I unboxed in the first portion of this video, and I got a second Lightning. This is actually my second Lightning that I've gotten, and it has the exact same issue as soon as I upgraded the system. My friend also did the same thing, had the same issue, sent his in, got a new one back, and his new one does the exact same thing as well. It is not the fault of Out of Darts, but this blaster definitely has some issues that I haven't heard anyone else really talk about. So when it comes to dealing with the issues compared to the pluses of this blaster, I actually did decide I was going to switch back to using the Diana. So because my major gripe about the Diana was the battery compartment, one thing that I actually did was I got a 3D printed front muzzle bit for the Diana just to extend a little bit so there was more space for the battery. I have had no issues with the Diana, and I have even completely replaced the lower on it. The Diana, you can pre-rev, you can choose not to pre-rev. You have semi, full auto. You can use 2-round burst and 3-round burst. It's a great pistol. I loved this thing when I used it. I thought I would trade it out for this one because of the little extra luxuries of life, where I had a better selector switch. The magazines were practically the same, so there was no downgrade there. And then the battery was the biggest thing. And then obviously quieter flywheels is definitely a plus. But this blaster here just performs so much better. Another issue with this is when you are shooting, if you paid attention during the accuracy test, some of these shots just started spiraling out of control, which is extremely weird because with my Diana, even though I used it outside, it was still extremely accurate with the wind. And this being inside still had some crazy shots. So because this is more accurate and it has had way less issues for me, unless there is some way that someone knows to fix the Lightning, I am actually going to be using my Diana from now on. This was a major point that I wanted to talk about in case people were trying to decide between getting a Lightning and a Diana. The Lightning is more expensive and has a bunch of issues. In the Diana, if you just 3D print this one part, kind of fixes all of the issues that it has. So that does wrap up my review on the Lightning. It is a pretty cool blaster and has some cool features, but in the end, I do like the Diana just a little bit more. This is JD Geeks signing off. I'll see you in the next one.